So how were these programs designed? And before I continue, and I want to really speak slowly so that the information is easily absorbed and digested by you. Rolf, why don't you join me? And what is the baseline for these programs, would you say? What would you tell our practitioners?
First, hello to everybody. So nice to be with you on the call. I want a little bit explain background. I have to start a little beforehand. The Ondamid idea is to use patient-specific frequencies, which are, the frequencies the patient responds to. So this is a very specific treatment, and that's the point we started out with Ondamid. But in daily practice, you need, of course, more. You need more simple programs. You may also need some indication programs, and or programs they have a certain effect which you can create in designing a program. So that's why we started. That's why we designed programs. And so the first programs, actually the Revital programs, this was in the very beginning. We used these programs as a startup. So we used them before we did Module 1. And Revital programs, there are also always 2 frequencies, but more than in the regular programs. There are up to 64 pairs. And when they are applied, they always have a certain constellation. And the constellation is based actually on tunes, on music. So you have, let's say, the frequency could be right and left the same. They could have a small step, a small difference. They could have 2 tones, 3 tones, 4 tones, 5 tones, 6 tones difference. And this would mean they impact the body differently, or they impact also your senses differently, and thereby work differently also on your emotion, but also on the physiology.
If I may back up here, and before we go into the details, you're already touching on the revitalization programs. I'd like to just explain to our practitioners that in Module 2, I often refer to it as you can imagine a chest of drawers. You have a chest with up to 8 drawers. Each drawer, when you open it, doesn't have 2 stocks in it, but 2 frequencies. And those 2 frequencies we have preset for you at a certain intensity and preset time. And let's say after 1.5 minutes, which is the preset time, the drawer closes and the second drawer opens, and now you have those 2 frequencies again pre-selected coming out of all applicators at the same time at the preset intensity and the time. So if you can imagine it as such, it becomes very logical and I think easy to get a hold of that picture of how the programs actually differ from the other modules, so such as Module 1, because we've covered it, I'm going to refer to it. Module 1 only giving you one drawer of specific frequencies that the patient responded to at the time of the session, the time of the testing through the radial pulse. Here, when we scan through the programs, we're only scanning through the first main drawer, which is almost like the key in, let's say the C is your key in which you will be playing this musical piece. So the first 2 frequencies coming out of the first drawer, and from there, it tests through programs 11 or 12 all the way up to 174. So it's not all programs coming out at the same time during the testing process. It's only the first frequency pair that we're testing. Thereby, we always say this is more generic than all the other modules where we're only dealing with 2 frequencies. So now that I have covered the basics.
So what Silvia just said is true for all programs except the programs 12 to 22, the Revital programs and therapy bands, and also 57, 58. But the first programs, they have much more frequency combinations, and they have a different structure. But this doesn't matter for you. It would make a difference if you would see it on the screen, if you would have the software, the visualization software, then there would appear a different screen.
Which is also stimulating for the patient to view the frequencies coming in by color. It's a beautiful a visual aid. Patients love to see something. While they may not feel necessarily what's happening, but they can see, they can follow along by watching the different colors correlating to the different programs.
Yeah, this was actually from the very beginning was the software part of the device, just for enhancing also feedback. You feel the frequencies, maybe you don't. But you feel the applicator, but you see the colors, you hear the frequency, and so you have the different senses in use. And as more clear the communication is, treating, hearing, seeing, the more clear is also the feedback, and it helps to identify more clearly the location, especially if you test the frequencies. So back to the Revital.
Yeah. They used to be, as you said, 4 minutes, because back in Europe, back in Germany, when Rolf started out, his practitioners ideally used it to just get the flow going, when and they generically placed the neck applicator on the neck and the matrix applicator, which wasn't available until maybe 6 years ago. They only had 2 applicators, the neck applicator and the handheld applicator, and they would just have the patient hold it toward their stomach area, and it would just give, just as you would ideally give your patient a glass of good water to hydrate the patient and to improve the conductivity of that patient's electrical field within and without. It's a nice little thing to, even for some of your practitioners. I remember they had one ornament sitting in the waiting room, and they went from patient to patient, and they just ran either any of the Revital programs or program 47 to just eliminate geopathic stress within that patient.
Autonomic nervous system programs.
Yes, a generic relaxation.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do a lot, You can have happy patients sitting there being prepared for their session, going in with your on-demand technician, going in with the on-demand practitioner, or you can simply, as you have been taught, most of you, by running through the first module and then the second module. And since we're covering the second module today, we want you to know what these programs stand for. And by what I said, by running through the programs, I meant just knowing what is the patient responding to, working as specifically as you possibly can with your patient, since the patient needs specificity. The body needs specificity in order for it to heal or to kickstart its healing processes as effectively and as quickly and lasting as it possibly can. So programs 12 through 18, you're holding up the finger. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I wanna complete this with the Revital programs. So in the beginning we used it as a startup, as you heard already. Later on we changed the protocol. 2 years ago I changed also the Revital programs, the time, because I thought nobody uses it anymore in the original purpose. So if it should make sense, then we should longer the time. So I changed the time from 4 minutes to 10 minutes. And a good idea is to use these programs, let's say, in a generic way. You could use them to harmonize a person by selecting one of the programs and maybe just use the matrix applicator on the spine, or you could use the handheld applicator, and you start treating with the handheld applicator from the forehead. You move slowly, maybe in circulating movement along the headline, down the spine until you reach the sacrum, and then you start again the same. If you then even use the pulse in addition to watch the patient's response, you will immediately see the main weak points on the spine, and you learn to know the patient right away. This helps to open up a patient very easily.
So if you have difficulties with the pulse, for example, and some of you do, that will be a good opening. It's, as Rolf said, to just scan, or not scan, but use the handheld applicator with the revitalization frequencies. You can use any of the revitalization programs. While they're all called the same, note that they have different frequency combinations, different frequencies used for each of these revitalization programs. You can feel the pulse to see where does your patient respond to the most, and then use maybe program 14 or 15 or 16, or you generically use program 15 because it's right in the middle. It's, as I said, I always preface that it is so important to use the whatever the patient is responding to. Be as specific as you possibly can. If you don't have the time, if you for some reason you've already pre-selected it intuitively, then go for it. Just pick intuitively. If you have other means of testing by muscle testing, or some of you may use a pendulum, then you go right ahead and test it in other means, by other ways. So programs 12 to 18, revitalization, giving a little boost to the body's physiology. You can even use this yourself, on yourself, of course. In between patients, you can always reduce the time from 10 minutes to, if you want, 4 minutes. By pressing, let's say it's program 18, you enter it in, then you press star, MS, and you reduce it to 4 minutes. And you enter again and you start. And you could just either have the matrix applicator on your spine, because all nerve endings, all organ endings, so to speak, are in the spine according to the conventional and to the TCM perspective of the human body. So, are we done with that?
Yes.
Can we move on?
Yes.
Very good.